Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and I want to welcome you back to Season 4 of the Mindshare Podcast. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems and the Buzz Conference. If you're not already, hit up the Buzz Conference at The Buzz Conference on Instagram and give them a follow. Make sure you get this month's copy of the Buzz Digital Magazine, and be sure to register for the March 31st event, Recharge 2022, taking place at the Mississauga Living Arts Center. This is a live in-person conference, and you are not going to want to miss it. Also, when was the last time that you checked out the Kit's cross-channel marketing suite? This is your full-on marketing tool set, starting with Loop CRM to help keep you organized. It's got the most personalized and effective newsletters. It's got e-newsletters. It's got social media content, websites, landing pages, action plans, you name it. There's so much in this system. It is fully loaded, all of it, to help you generate more business, drive more repeat and referrals, get more leads, build that mindshare, and drive even more sales. You can learn more on my site, mindshare101.com, by clicking on Marketing. As you know, we are on a push of 100 reviews, and I'd like to ask you, if you haven't yet, please take 2 minutes to rate the show, leave a review, and we are making this super easy for you. All you have to do is go to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. And as always, a big thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 169. He is the head of franchising and development for Realty One Group, Eastern Canada. He is responsible for regional strategy in areas of day-to-day operations, including franchise sales, membership services, as well as development of franchisees. He leads the Eastern Canada region through system policies, best practices, and programs that establish competitive advantages in the marketplace. Prior to joining Realty One Group Eastern Canada, he acted as vice president for RE/MAX Canada. He has extensive experience with mergers and acquisitions and has achieved industry-leading results in a franchised real estate environment by establishing a growth-first culture focused on goal setting, accountability, and support. He brings a fresh perspective to the industry, along with a robust set of skills and experience in franchising, real estate, operations, and finance. This week on the show, I am joined by Head of Franchising and Development for Realty One Group Eastern Canada, John Dowbiggin. John, welcome back to the Mindshare Podcast.
I'm so excited, David. Thank you for having me. It's absolutely a privilege to be here with you. Episode 169, congratulations, Season 4. You know, this is just the beginning for you. I just see you blowing up everywhere lately, and I'm so happy to have the same level of support for you that I have. So thanks again.
I appreciate you, John. It's, from the day that we had met, whatever it was, about a year or 2 years ago now, I don't know, time flies when you're having fun, I guess, but it's definitely been a very, sort of natural relationship between the two of us, mostly centered around the Toronto Maple Leafs and our love for hockey. But no, it's the support that goes both ways, man. And I'm super, super, super pumped for this next level in your journey, this next chapter in it, and super excited to be able to talk about that here today. So I thank you for making the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge change. And, the past 4 years, I was working with the incredible team at RE/MAX Ontario Atlantic and all the fantastic ownerships and leader there. We had a phenomenal team. We achieved some incredible things together, and really this opportunity to lead Realty One Group in Eastern Canada, it was just too good to pass up. And I'm very excited to share a lot under the hood, so to speak, about our plans, about the brand. So thanks a lot for having me and giving me the opportunity to do that.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I was gonna open up by saying that. Last time we spoke, you were on the show, VP at RE/MAX, and now the head of franchising and development for Realty One Group. I guess let's jump into that. Maybe the big question that I'm curious about, I know others might be, why the move? What prompted you to take this step?
Yeah, look, I think we're going to do things very differently, and just like yourself, David, you've got a very edgy, different approach to how you coach, to how you run your podcast. And for me, I think it was a very natural fit where I wanted to bring a different element, and embrace the change around the industry. I've listened to a lot of agents and owners, and there's definitely a need for something different, that's a little more real, a little bit more untraditional in a sense. So the further and further I dug with Realty One Group and met the leadership around the brand is, they're bringing that to life every single day. And we'll be able to bring that to life here in Canada. I feel so fortunate to have this opportunity to kind of lead this charge and lead this brand, lead the development of this new community that, based on my experience, there's so many people that are desperate for something like this.
Oh, so tell us, in terms of like something like this, who is Realty One?
Yeah. Realty One Group, is a privately held, fastest growing real estate company in North America right now. It started in the southern U.S. and we've secured the rights to Eastern Canada. Really, they provide everything that a realtor would need to run and grow their business. The best tools, technology, training, coaching, resources. All of that is there. There's no compromise. And then the cherry on top is they get to keep 100% of their commission.
That certainly sounds like a cherry. I say that sounds like more than a cherry.
Yeah, and really, it's a big part of our structure, but we don't lead with that. I mean, that's what's untraditional about it. I think a lot of the models that do have a 100% commission structure, they lead with that, and it's all about fees. And really that's secondary to us. Like the way we view that is that, an agent has negotiated their commission, and we shouldn't be involved in taking a percentage of that. We've come up with a very fair transactional model that, that's fair and they'll certainly enjoy the benefit of it. But we don't skimp on anything. We really do want to provide the best tools, technology, training, resources. And most importantly, I think where we're focused and hyper-focused is developing a community. Because I think, my personal opinion is that in the future, the value of a business will be the strength of its community.
I would agree with that completely. I think that that is something, and I mean, here, you could actually take the world of social media and really bring that together. And I mean, look, where we were at today in society, where we're at today in our market, in our industry, social media is not a guessing game anymore. You don't sit back and say, should I be there? Should I not be there? Yes, you should be there. Stop thinking about it and just do it. Now what to do? Well, that's where, the fear sets in, and we're going to talk about fear. I want to get to that with you after, and failure and challenges and things of that nature. But, before getting there, that's the idea, right? Is really the move forward and creating that community around people, or that culture where you've now got this group, this consortium of people that are rallying around something. Right. And when you've got that, it starts to bring, again, it brings people together. And one thing we're certain of in this business is it's a people business. Now, what I'm curious is this a bricks and mortar operation? And I ask that specific to the whole thing of what we've seen over the past couple of years and sort of the bell curve that certain companies have gone through in either direction, just based on the circumstances and the bigger picture of society. But is this bricks and mortar, or what's the setup of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's untraditional in the sense of bricks and mortar. Okay. We have the concept that we refer to as the hub, and what will happen is we're actually building out the very first hub here in Toronto. We're hoping to have that open in June, but this is a completely dynamic space. You're going to walk in and it'll feel more like an event center or an event space with comfortable furniture. Kitchen, and just a place to kind of hang out and bring your clients to wow them. There are meeting spaces available, all of the kind of regular things you would expect from an office. But I think what's really important is that the future workspace that agents want is a place to come together and feel that they're part of a collective. We don't want people to just come to the office and then go lock themselves in their rented space. And, that's a great model if you're focused on generating revenue and profit off of your office rentals. And we'll have some available too, but really the primary focus is providing this really inspiring community space for our agents and all agents of other franchisees. So bricks and mortar is foundational to us. Some of our franchise offices might be a little bit smaller because they're going to leverage the hub model. And as we grow, we'll build out more hubs, and people can kind of use these as connecting points in many different cities across Eastern Canada.
It's interesting. I know a number of years ago, I was doing a talk in Vegas, and it was actually called Culture, the Fifth Element. And the whole thing was about building culture. And we talked about, which I want to ask you about in a moment here, but, that idea of the super brokerage, and is it all about, trying to recruit as many agents as possible? Or, there was a time, and this was a number of years ago now, but where we saw brokerages really redoing the office space. So new hardwood floors, new kitchens, new things to be able to bring in, new espresso machines and things of that nature. And I remember even in that talk, I said, instead of trying to, go and spend money on useless things, go and get yourself a nice espresso machine. Go and get yourself a set of comfortable couches and have people sit down in a place that is comfortable. I mean, where did Starbucks win? Starbucks won because they created a place, and this was their whole thing. We're creating a place between work and home that people could come to settle down, relax, and feel comfortable.
Nailed it. You're going way back on me from my times at Tim Hortons. So, but a great example, and really that's the future that we want to build. We want the office to be this second home, and a home that's focused on increasing your connections, strengthening your relationships with other agents, other owners, and your clients. So, that's our vision for our main bricks and mortar is through the hub. But our franchisees will definitely have, some more traditional office spaces, and hopefully as they get bigger and bigger, they'll want to build out their own hubs as well.
As we look at, you guys and the Canadian market for Realty One, and looking at the agents, the Canadian agents. So we've got the hub, we've got a whole bunch of services. I love the fact, the idea around this comfortable place, this culture, this community you guys are trying to create. As agents are tuned into this right now, and I go more bluntly with the question of, and I think we've just really, John, I really do believe we've just answered it in the past few questions here, but why would agents want to be there with you?
Yeah. So, we're stripping away all of, we're stripping away the mold. So we want to create an environment where, it's built on respect, and everybody, we have no tolerance for bullshit or, disrespect. So that's fundamental to us. And if you can come and be respectful, then that'll enable you to, succeed and grow within the culture that we want to create, where the focus is on the individual one and making the individual one the best possible version that they want to become. And then through that, there's the collective one. And there's no more powerful collective one than a bunch of individual ones that are empowered and respecting each other. So that if they want to, experience, the best possible, culture environment for them that, supports and respects themselves and others, then that's why they would join us.
Cool. Okay. So good message for everybody to really take it and understand, and looking more into it. What's the direction that people go to just try to sort of find out more? And, if you're piquing their interest today, or maybe they're sitting at home later on tonight, or, over the next little bit going, hey, just,
Yeah, exactly. Find us on, LinkedIn, Realty One Group, Eastern Canada. We're on Instagram, Realty One Group, Eastern Canada as well. RealtyOneGroup.com is our website right across our entire brand, and that's global. We're adding many other countries as we speak right now, and in fact, we've signed up a couple already this year, including Italy and Africa. So our sights are set on building a global brand and a global network. So we're funneling everything back through the one website, RealtyOneGroup.com. We are building out our hub office, and we'll start to kind of drip and feed that through our social media channels for agents to kind of follow along and view the progress. And, we're going to make quite the splash when we're ready for agents to come and be part of what we're trying to build. We want agents we want agents to want to be here. So if we have to, force anybody to join us, then we've defeated the purpose. So
right. Well, I'll tell you, I know the first time sort of we talked and I went to the website, I went, whoa, this looks exciting. So there's definitely I guess a culture that's already existing within the brand itself of what they bring to the table, and a lot of what you described here, just of kind of what people can expect from it all. It certainly does look exciting. So, the other day I was on a call, and somebody had said to me, she goes, there's all these like new brokerages popping up that I've never heard of before. And I mean, we're seeing a lot of boutique brokerages. We're seeing a lot of, top producers that are now opening up their own brokerages or like satellite brokerages from things. And I mean, again, she sort of just said like, I just, a lot of stuff I haven't seen. So like, are we seeing a trending push away from the big brand? Why do you think a lot of agents are going this route to say, I'm either going to go somewhere that maybe wasn't as well known, or I'm going to go open up my own thing? What's the deal with that? Why is that happening? I mean, do you have any insight into that?
Yeah. This is just my opinion.
Yeah.
And,
absolutely.
from my experience, but I think that, if you look at the industry and if you look at what you're referring to as traditional big brands, I mean, they were really founded upon the principle of providing a unified identity. And that was big at one point in time. That revolutionized the real estate industry across North America, across the world, just to fly the same flag. And so, thinking back, that wasn't too long ago. Like that was in the 70s and 80s that they kind of provided this flag to wave and group people together and started to build around it. But I think people want more than just a unified identity. And you hear it time and time again. It's, they're trying to add tools and resources and things to build around this unified identity. But I think what's really missing is that cultural piece. And that's what will define us. That's what will give us our edge. No one is hyper focused on building that community of realtors. Everything else that you hear the traditional guys talk about, split, tools, resources, technology, like that's foundational. Like we have to have all those things. Those don't set us apart, right? What sets us apart is, our ability to, help one another, empower one another, and just be really great human beings.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the things in marketing, when you look at even branding and marketing, there's a lot of companies that go out and they try to emulate. So they look at the competition, they say, what are they doing? We're going to go do the same thing. And they try to do the exact same thing without thinking to themselves, what can I do to be different? What can I do to be better? How can I actually create this unique brand image or, value proposition to say to people, come this way, whether it's come join us, come work with us, come hire us, buy from us, whatever. I think that there's always that lost thing. And it sounds, again, at least here, you guys are trying to take this really different approach to it from, again, that culture and community. And, looking at that, I guess outside of the fact, or maybe beyond the culture perspective, and that's a big one. I don't want to downplay that in any way. Mm-hmm. Would you say that some of the biggest challenges are that often a lot of these guys are focused very much on those old foundational pieces, or what are some of these, challenges, I guess, that some of the traditional brokerages are facing in this current landscape? And what is that? What's the outlook for the longevity of like that sort of super brokerage?
Yeah, like you've definitely seen these super brokerages continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they definitely need to. Scale is something that all industries, all businesses are focused on, and rightfully so. I mean, your customers and consumers are demanding more for less. So, one way to do that is just continue to grow and find, new revenue sources and try to, fill the gap that, you may not have seen last year or 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But really, you can't really like change your entire structure to solve for these gaps. And the gaps get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you try to fill a little bit more each year, or, and then eventually you kind of get stuck in this, like, it's just lip service. So what you want to do is you want to build a model from day one where everything's included. There's no further, commission split than 100-0. So we've kind of taken care of that as well. And then moving forward, we just want to grow and develop the next generation and attract people that want to be with us long term and continue to foster this cultural piece. So I think it's really hard to start fresh if you've got 40 years of history, and sometimes you just need to erase it all, or crumple it up and throw it out the window, right, and start fresh. So that's kind of the approach that you're seeing in some of these other industries. But again, it's a proven model. Our leadership and founding owners of the business really came at it through the heart. They wanted to help realtors. They were realtors. They wanted to help broker owners. They are broker owners still. They want to provide a model that provides the longest possible runway possible, and enables them to grow, because that's the way the industry is going. So let's set you up for success now and into the future, for as long as you possibly want to continue doing this.
So looking ahead to the future, then we look at the opportunities. And if I looked at the opportunities specific to current broker owners or anybody that is aspiring to be a broker owner, what are we seeing as those opportunities right now? Like if we do let's look ahead as opposed to look backwards on what was traditional, does this come right back to, how are you bringing people together?
Pretty much. I mean, essentially, like, the opportunity is for you to be you and attract people that want to be around you. It enables you to be a leader. I think taking a lot of this stuff, the traditional stuff, off of your plate, from the management side. Like, technology has enabled so many things to go digital and be much more user friendly. So we've just embraced that from day one, so that your time and energy can go into focusing on people, because the people are the ones that are really going to drive your business, be your biggest supporters, get out there and tell other people about you and spread that word and build your community. So we want to take as much of that like task oriented process work off of your plate by giving you the proper tools and systems, not only as a realtor but as a broker owner, and really get you hyper focused on the community aspect of this, the like building that out and just being yourself, because that's where the growth will come from. I think if you look across the industry now, the fastest growing brokerages and brands are based on an individual, based on somebody leading the charge that other people respect, that respect other people back, and that other people want to be around. That's truly what's driving growth, if you actually strip it all away. Not because of a tool or a resource that are causing people to flock. Fees are a little bit there, but I don't think that's a sustainable growth trend. Leaving one brokerage, they just kind of like go around in a circle and try to find the lowest fee model possible. And so really the ones that are having high growth and sustainable growth are based on leadership and based on that sort of like building of a community.
Again, this goes back to what we said a few minutes ago around the world of social media and the way things have been growing. That's what it comes down to these days, right? Is we know real estate's a people business. We know the social landscape is all about people. We know the fact that we've been so isolated and socially distanced from each other in the grand scheme of things over the past 24-ish months. That again, this whole digital way of communicating with others is really, really important. Much the same, we've seen the way that I hate to use this word, but the influencer has grown in stature in our world from different walks of life, different industries. But again, what did you get? You got a person. And that person was able to rally a lot of people around. And based on the mentality of society, those people then did a lot of the same, because again, they found that's their fit within culture. And look, man, this goes way back to even like for everybody, high school days, right? You look around the schoolyard, you got this group, you got that group, you got this group. Everybody's into their own things, but everybody's kind of, piggybacked on somebody because they go, oh, that's the cool person or whatever, or that's my people. We like to be with our people. So as you say all this, then what I'm curious about, what would be the number one or even top three things that anybody should know or even consider, John, when it comes to the brand and the setup that they're currently with, and maybe moving over to anything new?
Yeah, look, I think I've said a number of things, but I'll try to boil it down. And our focus will always be on the agents and broker owners, not some shareholder on Wall Street. So that's priority number one. I just don't believe that real estate companies should be publicly held. I believe in the power of engaging together and your contributions being proportionately beneficial. So I think us taking that approach, being invested in it at all times, that's number one. And number two is that there's no bullshit. Like we're not going to. I think if people are looking for a change, it's probably that they're looking for the real message. They're looking for a real person. You go back to the influencer example, right? Is it just eye candy? Does it look good? Have they shot the product in a certain way, or has this person spent a lot of time and energy presenting themselves in a way, or do they actually have the credibility? Do they actually want to help you? Because there are influencers that are very helpful and spend a lot of time and energy dedicating their resources to education. Whether it's photography or any other skill, even just like personal coaching, right? Like, look at this. You're dedicating your time to help others and give them opinions that they may not have heard. So, they want real. They want real, and most of what is real in today's environment is probably going to be a little bit edgy and a little bit, just normal. So don't look past it. I think simplicity is often a really powerful thing. And I think this is: do they want to be, feel like they're in a rat race or chasing something, or do they want to feel like they're really a part of something and that their contributions to that collective are respected and supported and celebrated? And so I think a lot of the times this is an isolating industry, right? Like, they're entrepreneurs, they're out on the road, they're chasing clients, they're always thinking about how to generate business. And so in an industry that's rife with isolation, that's a big one. Is if they're looking for a change, come find a spot that's going to really provide you that collective energy that you're probably you could probably benefit from.
I like that one. I think that really ties it together nicely, right? Is like finding that spot that has that collective energy, right? Because I think that for everybody is a very different thing, right? That for everybody is very different. But again, that's the whole idea too about, finding what works for you doesn't necessarily work for everybody else. And that goes back to my comment about that. I don't know if I used the term today, but sheeple mentality of just following in the footsteps without actually any proper rhyme or reason to say, is this the right fit for me? Right. So as we talk about that, let's talk about the word change for a moment, right? Like, and embracing change. Why is it so hard?
Yeah. It's to embrace change is because change, let's just strip it back one more layer, because change is the only thing that's constant, right? You've probably heard that before. And most of the time, most of the change in our world happens pretty slowly. It's just the abrupt changes. Anything that doesn't happen very slowly is kind of shocking to us. So it gets our attention, and we take notice to it. And then so just a matter of are you embracing it? Or are you just running away from it? Kind of that fight or flight moment when things change more rapidly in front of you, whether it's the weather or whatnot. But what do you think, David?
I think people are set in their habits. I think habits develop by accident. I don't think people normally pay attention to the fact that a habit is developing, because that's why we all develop good and bad habits. We talk about problems, okay, and we look at a problem, and a problem is not a problem until it becomes a problem, right? Because most times a lot of people think they got whatever it is under control until they at some point have this epiphany to realize they don't have it under control. And so again, looking at change in that regard, is that I think people are just, it's a comfort factor, right? Like, this is what I do. This is how I do it. This is just what I'm used to. I mean, hey, where did the whole line, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? Because people don't want to embrace change. Yet our society's all made up of change. You just said it. It's the one thing that's a constant, right? And I think that being able to move with the change and adapt to the change is actually very, very important. If we look at and talk about that, we look at change and we think to ourselves, we went into a world that, and I brought this up yesterday somewhere, but, we used to run around with quarters and pagers. We got to a point where we had these big cell phone bags, right? We then got to a point where, the flip phone turned into the smartphone. We got to the point where social media became normal. We've gotten to the point where we are all, including myself, going to harp on the fact that everybody needs to turn on their video camera at this point in time. This is like part of communication. It's no longer like, oh, you're getting on video. No. It is part of the way we communicate in this world today. And so and I think that right there is probably one of the toughest things for everybody to change, because most people are very scared to get on camera. And so my message to everybody, and I'll say this to everybody right now as well. If you had the nerve to get up this morning, look yourself in the mirror and still walk out that door, hey, you're good. You can turn on a camera. No, it's not that bad. It's like the exact same thing. You can do it. But people don't, out of fear, right? Fear of the unknown, fear of what's going to happen, fear of what they're going to think, fear of what's it going to do to me. So, I mean, my belief has changed. The real sort of, struggle with it, it's just that people are scared. And when we look at fear is one of the biggest motivators out there. Here, let's look at change for a sec on this front, okay? Cryptocurrency and NFTs, right? Change. Now, and I'll ask you a question about this in a second, but I'm going to set the stage for a second and say this. Talk to many people. We've had some wonderful folks on the show that I've asked the question. They blow smoke. They're like, screw that stuff, right? I've spoken to other people that I got a lot of confidence in and that are very, very smart people that are very involved in the financials world and investments and whatnot. They'll tell you, screw crypto. Then I get this other sort of, group of people that are like, you got to be there.
Yeah.
Now, setting the stage on that, I would say this. First, I think we've got an old guard that does not want to necessarily embrace change to the way people are investing money and where they're doing their money anymore. What we've also got is when I look at my son, Joshua, who's 10 years old, who's going to be 11 in a few days, and I watch what he's doing, and he's online with his buddies, especially the way it's been exasperated over the past 2 years of the communication channel between the kids, right? He gets online. He plays Fortnite. All of his buddies talk about culture and community. All of his buddies are buying new shirts and face masks, call them skins, for their characters. Now I'm still trying to wrap my head around. I'm like, dude, why don't you take your money and go buy yourself a shirt for you that you can actually wear outside rather than buying a shirt for your character on a video game? So we had to wrap our heads around this whole thing. But then as I got further, John, I realized he's taking and quite frankly, I'm going to say not mine. It'd be like my mother-in-law's or like my mother's, because they're the only ones that give him money to spend on his PlayStation. But that's another one. I digress. He takes that. He turns it real money into digital currency. We'll call it, I don't know, crypto. He doesn't call it crypto. He then goes and takes his digital currency, his wallet, and he buys skins, which for today and in the bigger picture of the world, we'll call NFTs. So when I'm watching the kids of today, and I'm listening to anybody who's telling me, no crypto, no NFT. I'm thinking, no, you don't understand. My 10-year-old is using crypto to buy NFT. He just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, a lot of, back to changes for a second, people are probably, scared of change because, and back to habits even more so, is that they're not they feel like they're not the one driving it. So they've made a decision to either let change hit them or be the driver of change. So that's really the switch on the habit formation thing, right? You have to choose to do something, or not choose to do something. And that choice of doing something or not will lead to a habit forming, good or bad. And so I think a lot of people are, if I was to talk about change and just wrap that up, it's like, just ask yourself, are you driving change? Because change is constant. It's gonna affect you. And I'm not saying change everything drastically, but are you driving change so that you feel control over change? I think that's the biggest thing to eliminate the fear. So, pick something that you want to change, drive change, control it, conquer your fear. And then when other change hits you, you'll be better prepared. So back to crypto, absolutely. Another massive change is even in our industry. I mean, like you talked about, and I love the way you set it up because NFTs are really being driven by gaming right now. So you've got a great inside look. Over $10 billion were spent inside of games last year. So on things like skins and whatever else that they're buying, $10 billion. NFTs went from like 2.5 million to like $12 billion in 2021. So that market growth is just astronomical, never seen before in any sort of market. And it will continue probably close to that clip in this year. So NFTs and crypto, Web3 specifically, will be the biggest topic of 2022. And really, understanding all of it, we could spend like an hour doing it. So maybe we come back and do it all. But
well, I'm going to tell you, I had to ask you about that though. And first, I mean, my first question here, and I think I've already got my answer, and I think everybody else has, but is this whole world is it legit?
Yeah. So like, just thinking about the internet, right? Like, let's strip it back. Like, when the internet first launched, it was like read only. You could just like go and pull up whatever you wanted to read. And then eventually, and the reason that was is because we just weren't advanced enough to like utilize it ourselves and create our own pages using the code and speaking the computer language. But so companies came along like Facebook, and they're like, oh, we'll do all the coding for you and enable you to use the internet, but within our confines, right? So you could personalize it, you could customize, edit, read, write, interact. And essentially the trade-off was like, you created data and essentially they own the data. They control it and they monetize it. And I think, we're all frustrated by that because we don't proportionally benefit from the growth of those platforms. They lack privacy. They can be censored. Access can be restricted. They can be shut off. Power just being centralized and centralized versus decentralized is not good or bad in either direction. But, with that being said, like over 3 billion people rely on this very centralized model for about 80% of their day. So we're very ingrained in it, which is why this stuff comes like the new Web3 comes off as something that's like really hard to understand. And essentially, Web3 is the idea that we should own more of what we create. We're interacting, we're using all these platforms. Our contributions, we should be proportionally benefiting from those contributions that we're making. So really the technology behind Web3 is blockchain. And, think of Web3 as like the app layer on top of blockchain. So, it's essentially, it's a proven model. There are going to be companies that build things on top of the blockchain and you can use, these products, but they're built with the intention that like the community owns them. So that's pretty revolutionary that these people are out there building stuff because they want to drive towards this future. And they're the ones kind of like steering us all towards what we actually want. Without, with them, sure, they're probably, there's got to be a benefit for them, but the control and the usership belongs to the users. So, crypto and NFTs definitely live in this space on the blockchain. And really, I think, just full disclosure, yes, I invest in crypto. I haven't bought NFTs, but I do believe that NFTs will take control or be used in every single thing that we do in the future. Just given their, ability to track authenticity. That's really what it is right now. It's like that $1 billion number that I gave you, $2.5 billion in volume. That's being driven by like digital art, digital collectibles, and gaming. We haven't really got into the use of NFTs for like physical items. So like, a rare pair of sneakers or a nice bottle of wine, something that you need to prove you actually own. So that will be coming. And eventually, maybe in a decade, probably not sooner, but like your house is an NFT. It could be an NFT.
Okay. I was going to, when we talk about Web3 and that whole idea, and I'm just going to come back for one sec. The recent keynote that I did in Atlanta, which was titled Own Your Audience. And of course, I'm not going to share the entire keynote here today, but a big part of the topic, or sort of the opening setup part of it, is around the fact that we don't own our own data when it comes to Facebook, Instagram, Meta. We don't own it. It's not ours. These guys could shut down tomorrow, take it with them, and see you later. You got no say. Whereas when we look to this Web3 platform now, as to what you just said, that very much becomes complete ownership, right? That becomes that transparency of the fact that you actually do own what that is. So as you just brought it up, I wanted to ask you about this concept around digital real estate, right?
Yeah.
Do we believe, here's the way I look at it. I figured to myself this, if we come back to my comment about sheeple mentality, okay, and I believe that's just societal. We look at, I don't have digital real estate. All of a sudden you bought digital real estate and you're like, dude, come over. And I come over. I'm like, wow, buddy, this is a nice digital house you have. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go buy one, but I go buy a nicer, bigger one. And I'm like, God, come on over. And you look at mine, like, man, that's a nice house. And all of a sudden what's starting to happen is, and to the way society works, people want bigger. They want better. Oh, look what he's got. I'm going to go do next level. And now we're constantly battling each other. And I do believe, John, that's going to be the driving force behind something like the digital real estate, especially, is one, they're not making any more land. So, you got to do something. But realistically speaking, is that thought of keeping up with the Joneses, right? The keeping up with the Joneses mentality.
I think that's part of it. I think it's really important that people understand what's driving everything behind it, right? I think we assume that because it's digital land, it's comparable to physical land. So, the fear of missing out and just the nature of our real estate markets around the world, I think that's also influencing the prices that we're seeing. So when people ask me, is it a good investment? What's the underlying value driver of the investment? So it's great that you brought up gaming, because that is the driver of digital land, is that in order to monetize your digital land, you need gamers, you need people to go into these spaces and attend events or visit properties that you can then monetize, whether it's through advertising, partnership, retail, you name it. So take, for example, like a concert, right? So they throw a digital concert. There's 10, world-class artists, and they decide to host the concert in Decentraland at the center of the hub. And, your properties are around that concert venue in the digital space. So when all these avatars come by, all of a sudden they're going by your digital land. So if you were savvy enough and sophisticated enough, you could partner with different retailers or advertisers to monetize that land because of the traffic that's being driven there online and being exposed to it. So really, digital, I think from where we are today, the driver of digital land value is the strength and power of gaming. And
I see that.
On top of that, you also have to remember that this is an asset. Digital land is like an NFT. And really, the drivers of all assets are supply and demand, right? So digital land can be coded into existence overnight, right? So even if you are buying land in a specific platform with rules in place that limit creation, you're depending on that specific platform to remain in demand, right? So Decentraland is very popular right now, but what happens if they make some choices or people or something new comes along and all of the users leave Decentraland and go to the new platform? Well, the digital land is no longer valuable because you don't have the usership.
So viable investment or no?
I think if you believe in the power of gaming, then sure. Like it's all based on, can gaming growth continue at the current clip, which is like 20 to 30%. And it's growing across all demographics, like young and old. globally, like it's a very exciting industry. So the fact that there are ways for, people to monetize that system in a sense that relates to our profession as real estate professionals, sure, it's exciting. I think it's probably a little bit overblown. I mean, like, we're still a long way away to getting to a stage where these like Web3 platforms are kind of universal. Like, there's many horses in the race right now, and there will be more horses over the next couple of years. So to, just bet on one horse in the race today, not knowing what horses are coming, that's the speculation that you really need to take into consideration. So although it's exciting, I'm not an investor. I believe in gaming and I believe in the power of it, but I just don't think I'm sophisticated enough to like take advantage of that digital asset, that digital land in that space. And I'm also worried about the long-term sustainability of specific platforms when not enough has been tested, not enough has like been out there and had user experience, right? Something could come along tomorrow that's like 10 times better.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I would agree with all that. And I mean, the other thing, Kieran, I think when you look at the measures going on in Canada at this exact moment in time, you wonder, could they just freeze all this stuff? I think everybody said because it's so decentralized, they actually don't have access to this stuff. But that'll be left to be seen if this is a 2-week thing or if this goes on for much longer than that. We shall see. But let me ask you this then: what about the overall market, not just in terms of the digital market? But the overall market, I think just a question that's got to be asked here, just for the sake of conversation, not right or wrong. Do you think we're in a bubble?
I think that like the whole real estate market as a whole, or are you talking like the whole global?
No, I'm talking like the real estate market, especially, let's say, in our Canadian landscape right now, right? Just to look at, and I mean, look, setting that sort of the obvious on that. We look at housing prices, we look at inventories low, we look at the fact that, there are no short-term fixes in place at the moment. We know rates are starting to go up, and people that are from the early 90s that were, having interest rates back then, they're going to look and go, yeah, rates are going up. It's nothing compared to, but rates going up is rates going up. Carrying costs are carrying costs. People, affordability is what it is. I mean, I went to fill up gas the other day. It was almost $2. Yeah. Like I remember when it broke $1 years ago, we thought, okay, it's going to drop at some point. We never saw it go back down. Now we're talking almost $2. Does that go back down? So I think affordability is a very real challenge for many people moving forward. And again, when you look at what they said the other day, average rental, you need to be making if you rent in Toronto, you need to be making about $90,000 a year. And they went through across different Canadian major cities. And I think the lowest income level is like 75,000 is what you need to be making to cover that. I don't think that's even our median salary here in this country.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different factors right now that, obviously you mentioned a number of them, but really, it seems like we're balancing a lot of plates and not just here in Canada. So, I think I don't like to look at things, whether they're like a bubble or not. Like, I think it's just a matter of like, how many plates can you keep spinning at one time? And like, right? Like, so yeah, sure. All the plates are spinning right now, but like if somebody nudges you and one of the plates falls, you could probably keep going with the rest and make it look good to the rest of the audience. But like it could take a body check and, 3 or 4 of those plates and then the rest of them fall. So that's at all times. Mm-hmm. I think we're always spinning those things, but it just seems like the plates are spinning a little bit faster right now with like the way that inflation's going. The fact that we've increased immigration again, which is driving demand. Supply is still struggling to keep up. So all of these. It seems like all of the plates, just all of the factors on each plate, keep forcing it to spin faster and faster and faster. And so at what point is anybody able to kind of like slow some of those factors down? That's the real question. Mm-hmm. Is, especially we're looking at interest rates rising and inflation rising accordingly. Can they rise rates at a pace that doesn't completely collapse the financial market? And that's the Fed and our Bank of Canada's decision to manage that. So it'll just be a really interesting ride to kind of watch them and see. Like that's how I view it. I don't think of it in terms of bubbles. Like it's just a matter of the influence and the pressure on these things that are spinning around us.
Fair enough. Good answer there. I think, if we look ahead and sort of go, my thoughts are in the next, and again, I don't know this word bubble or not bubble, but the next sort of 48 or 24 to 48 months will tell us a lot about what has happened over these past number of years and what impact that has had. And I think that that's the time frame we see it. I don't think it's coming this month or this year. In fact, I'd ask you that, like next 10 months of 2022, forget about even like 2023 right now. These next 10 months can go figure. We are already pretty much wrapped with February. I don't understand where time goes, but what are we looking ahead to? I mean, what kind of things are we just, I guess, what are we looking ahead to? What are we paying attention to? Or where are you guys at? Where's your headspace for sort of the next 10 months?
Yeah, I think we're all looking forward to like getting a little bit more normal in our life in terms of like, hopefully, the virus continues to subside and, we're able to continue to, alleviate our healthcare system and get people healthy again, because there's a lot of people out there that are struggling, haven't been able to get surgeries, and really we got to take care of ourselves first. And then, it'll be interesting to watch, our financial markets and how they react to the need to, rise interest rates. But also I'm super excited about this Web3 thing. I think it definitely is the future. And really, a lot of this is because, control is so centralized and like, the data, people are not benefited proportionally. I think, the last time I was on here, it was still in the middle of the pandemic. Wealth disparity is a huge thing in our lives and in our world today. The gap keeps growing. We got to find ways to, reduce that, and give everybody a chance to afford the things that, they deserve. Housing and shelter being a huge one right now. So, I think Web3 has a lot of potential to kind of, narrow that gap, if not solve some of that. So I'm looking forward to just seeing how that develops this year, tracking it very closely. Obviously, from our perspective at Realty One, we're going to be selling over a dozen franchises in our region. So onboarding and bringing on 12 or more people as owners that are just as excited about the brand as us, that see the same opportunity for growth and development, and that are thinking very much long term and owning this forever and helping the people around them. That's exciting. Who those 12 people are, I don't have them on a list, but I'm excited to get to know them and interact with them. But if anybody's interested, you know who to contact.
I do. Listen, I love the positive mindset. You didn't say when you didn't say if. It was just like, this is what's going to happen. And I think that that's important, especially when we do a look ahead, is having that real thought process that says, well, this is the plan. This is what we're doing. This is what we're going to achieve. And people look and go, but you sure? Like, well, what happens if you don't? I mean, here, talk about fear, talk about change. Let's talk for a moment about failure, right? Yeah. We look ahead to the next 10 months and we think to ourselves, well, there's a lot of different things people could change, but they may not because of fear. Let's talk about failure for a quick second. I believe strongly that the path to success is loaded with failure. Why would you say it's important to embrace failure? And how do we change our mindset to one that looks like it as a step towards success versus all out failure?
Yeah. So there's a couple things that you can kind of keep in the back of your mind. The only people that never make any mistakes are those who do nothing. Like it's impossible. Yeah. It's impossible to not fail. Like you're going to fail unless you just sit there in a bubble and do absolutely nothing. Like that's the only situation where you're not going to fail. So, you should expect failure. You should embrace it because in that environment, success will stand out and be recognized, right? If you're used to failure every single time, when you finally do win, it's like, oh, like I'm excited. I won. It stood out, right? But when you expect success, like if you think that you expect to succeed in everything you do, then failure is the thing that stands out. And it's going to be pointed out. And that's just like a negative, sort of system. Whereas like you want to reinforce the positive behavior, right? You don't want to reinforce the negative. So that's the kind of mindset that you got to have. And like, you got to just consciously reinvest every single day, every single moment, into believing that whatever you want to achieve is possible. Like before we were on this, this kind of comes from Martin St. Louis. We were talking about him and how they kicked our butts the other night, the Toronto Maple Leafs. But like,
I can't even believe you brought that up live.
Yeah, he embraces that. Like, go look at some of his videos, right? He believed that anything was possible. Being under 6 feet, Stanley Cup champion. Like, he just has that attitude where if you want it enough, and you really got to want it, but it's possible. It's absolutely possible. So that's what that's what I would tell your listeners.
No, I like that. So here's one, and I don't know if you remember if you remember this from last time, and I'm going to pose it again because obviously, as always, people grow, people evolve, people change. How do you know it's been a successful day for you?
Yeah, every day is a success. Like, I just go into it every day is going to be a successful day because there's you have the choice. You have the option to think of it one way or another. Did I succeed today, or did I like not succeed? Did I fail? Failure is part of it. We fail every day at certain things, but at the end of the day, you got to rest your head and you got to believe that you succeeded, and that's it. Because you got to believe.
Very cool, man. I like that. So, John, just as we sign off here, what and I mean, you've shared some awesome stuff here today, man. I mean, just a great conversation through, obviously very exciting stuff that Realty One is doing, and big congratulations on you. Again, I wish you nothing but the best with that whole new move. Talking about that and what the offerings are there. And so everybody's aware of that. Jumping into things like the crypto conversation and the NFTs and Web 2, Web 3, looking at the conversation around change and the conversations around failure. I mean, certainly a loaded conversation. As we do sign off, I'd ask you, what last words or tips have you got for anybody? And again, you shared a ton today that everybody can use to sort of get out there, help themselves, with their mindset, get out and build a lot more mind share, just take their business to another level. Some final words.
Yeah, I can't hammer it home enough, but the value of your business is in the strength of your community. So focus on strengthening your community every opportunity you have, because if social media disappeared, like, this is a thought experiment that I kind of have, is that take away Facebook, like take away all the digital communication that we have. Where's your community and how strong is it? Think about that for a second, and I think that's a lot of food for thought for some people to chew on.
Well, I am going to use that as a jumping off board right there and say that I've got a wicked keynote that piggybacks right on that exact thought that was incredibly well received when delivered in Atlanta a few weeks ago. And I'm just super pumped to be sharing with many others coming up. And it does talk a lot about that right there. The fact that, again, as we've talked about, and as you just, we don't own any of that. If it shut down tomorrow, what are you doing? Right? How are you running your business? And I think that is a wonderful thought to leave people with. So, John, a big thank you to you, man. It's, super excited for everything you're up to. I appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing with us. Thank you for the ongoing support with Mindshare at all times, man. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck. Thanks again for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much, David. It's my pleasure. Huge fan of the show and what you're doing. So keep it up.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content counter to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with my team. We'll set up a free strategy call. We'll talk about more what you're looking to achieve and how we will help you do just that. Also, don't forget that our push to 100 is on. All you have to do, this is super easy, is go to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. Throw us a big 5 stars. Leave us a nice little review about how much you love the show. We would be very grateful. And if you haven't yet, connect me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan101. I want to thank Virginia Munden and the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Be sure to visit their website, www.thebuzzconference.com. Follow them on Instagram at The Buzz Conference. Keep tabs on all of the awesome events they are hosting. Get registered for Recharge 2022 on March 31st. Get the registration done now. And of course, grab the January edition of the Buzz Digital Magazine. It is a very, very special one. Of course, I also want to thank Kids Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked this out yet, just go to my site, mindshare101.com, and click on marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.